Hello everyone, welcome to the United Stand. We're here outside Seville's training complex looking ahead to the Seville game tomorrow night, the second leg of the Europa League. And we've run into Dharmesh from Sky Sports News. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thanks for having me.
Loving the weather?
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
need to get
nice.
a bit of sunblock on my head now actually.
Yeah, so we're going to take this opportunity to obviously talk a little bit about United. Obviously, United fans at the moment, as well as the football, which has been good. The topic has been the ownership, the takeover. In terms of where we're at, from what you know right now, Dharmesh, obviously your colleague Harry has been covering this in depth for Sky Sports. Where are we at right now with everything?
Well, I mean, going towards the third round of bidding, there's a deadline towards the end of this month. I just think it's probably frustrating for a lot of United fans. The fact that you're asking the question, I think, reflects the frustration of some United fans. That why is it taking this long? Is it because the Glazers have looked at the price that they want and after 2 rounds of bidding thinking, actually, these guys have gone this far, we probably still can get the 6 billion we want? But from the outset, we've got to remember that when all of this takeover and investment talk came about, there was no actual firm statement out there saying that they were looking for a takeover. It's just, is it investment? Is it takeover? All the noises that everyone is giving us is that the takeover will happen in some shape or form, but it's got to the point where there are a lot of interested parties, and around 2 of them, who we know, the Qatari one and Sir Jim Ratcliffe's Ineos bid as well, those are the ones that are involving and revolving around a takeover. But I think what is quite important is how much the club, the manager and the recruitment team will want some sort of certainty sooner rather than later, because we're hurtling towards another summer transfer window, which could prove to be one of the most important ones for Manchester United, given how this season has gone under Erik ten Hag, where he probably hasn't got every single player that he wanted to bring in, but the ones that he has brought in, I'm sure, I don't know what you're watching them week in, week out. Did you expect United to be in the top 4? Did you expect them to be fighting on 3 fronts at this stage of the season? And he's done that, perhaps with a recruitment that hasn't been what he would have wanted 100% in the last 2 transfer windows. So once he gets that certainty, I think he'll know what kind of player he can go for. The names like Harry Kane, Victor Osimhen, a blue chip midfielder perhaps to play alongside Casemiro, they're all being talked about as priorities. They're going to cost big money. Now, in the current state, would they be able to afford 250 million pounds plus to bring in those players if there isn't that investment or if there isn't that takeover? And you've got to remember, using the Jude Bellingham situation as an example, the talk is that Liverpool are pulling out of that deal. But other clubs are now looking at Jude Bellingham and other midfielders, because it's not a case of a club looking at their transfer policy once the window opens. They'll be doing that throughout the season. And with United, are they in a position where they know exactly how much money they can spend and who they can buy? With this takeover and the investment hanging over them, I don't think they can just now. So that's one of the big reasons, aside of the fans' frustrations with the current ownership. It's the management and the recruitment team who want to know who they can buy. Yeah, because of course, obviously, there's the infrastructure investment that's needed at the football club, as well as what you just fully described there. I mean, there is probably a priority list in fans' eyes, in the manager's eyes, like where the initial investment needs to be put into. I think the fear with the United fan base is that the separate hedge funding, that sort of finance, where the Glazers may actually still be in power in any way, shape or form. The fan base do not want them there at all, if it's minority or the larger. But the investment in the stadium, the training ground, the women's team, the under 21s and the women don't even play in Manchester. This is how far the club have fallen behind with the Glazers, and I think this is probably why there's the concern and everything that you just described then, because Ten Hag has spent very well. To answer your question from a second ago, if we give him proper backing and proper structure, we can see what he can do, and that, I think, is where United fans fear the most. It's like, if you don't back this manager, someone may tempt him away if he doesn't get what he's wanting to actually take United to that next level. I think that's the main concern. I would agree with you. I would also say that with regard to the investment, you looked at January and
Yes.
It was only loan signings that they brought in. They filled in the positions that you could fast forward to the summer and think, right, they need to bring in a striker, they need to bring in a central midfielder. And they brought in a striker and a central midfielder, you could argue. But Wout Weghorst is probably not the answer, and he's on loan. Marcel Sabitzer is on loan. However well he's been playing recently, there is potential for him to become a permanent signing. But is Sabitzer the blue chip midfielder that they want to play alongside Casemiro?
The Bellingham.
Exactly. So for me, this, just talking about transfers generally, it feels like it's going to be a huge summer, like one we've not seen before, particularly in the midfield area. Because you're looking at the ones that everyone's talking about: Bellingham, Rice, Caicedo. But then you go further afield than that, you're looking at a couple of the midfielders at Wolves. Ruben Neves is out of contract in the summer of 2024. There's no talk of him signing a new contract as it stands. It's going to depend on whether Wolves are staying in the Premier League or not, of course, or does he want a new challenge at the age that he's at? Is that somebody that maybe Manchester United would look at? Because they have looked at him in the past as well. So I just think it just needs certainty on and off the pitch for this summer transfer window to go as United would want it to go. Because for me, how this season has gone, it just feels this is going to be a crucial window for United, more crucial than we've seen in previous summers and Januaries, because of exactly what Erik ten Hag has done so far this season.
You mentioned another area where United need to strengthen in the squad. A certain name has been thrown out there quite a lot already. Mr. Harry Kane. The situation at Spurs. Can you see Harry Kane making that move this summer? Is this the summer with what looks like from the outside, from a United fan's perspective? We've been there before. It looks like the club just looks like a circus. Right now, from the outside, it looks like Spurs have got no direction. Do you feel like this would be the summer? If United did have money, would you say United needed to go and get that striker?
It's the priority position.
Yeah.
We've known that for 2 summers. Cristiano Ronaldo, of course, left during the season. Wout Weghorst has come in, and it seems that is the stopgap until the summer, when they have more options, when a lot more of these big players, you've got to understand, it's very difficult to do business in January anyway, simply because, for example, if they were going for someone like Victor Osimhen or Harry Kane in January, those clubs, Napoli and Tottenham, are going to be very reluctant. They're going to be reluctant now, but they're going to be very reluctant to sell them in January. Both clubs were in the Champions League. Napoli cruising in Serie A, in the Serie A title race as well. Harry Kane is a name that just doesn't go away. It's one of those ones where it might not be up to Harry Kane, though, because all the noises we heard last summer is that he did want to go. Manchester City did want to buy him, but in the end he didn't go because he was still under contract. There was no release clause, and Daniel Levy said, "You're not going anywhere." That hasn't changed. The only thing that's changed is that come the summer, he's only got a year left on his contract.
Yeah.
Now, Tottenham could still say, well, no, we're going to be better off having you for the remainder of your contract, even if we lose you for free, because they might need to balance things up. Have we got a better chance of reaching the Champions League the following season if Harry Kane's in the team or he's not?
That's
probably
it.
He is. But then, on the flip side, how much money do you potentially lose by not selling Harry Kane this summer? There's also the option of Harry Kane staying and becoming a Tottenham player for the rest of his career. That can't be ruled out. And I mean, up to a few months ago, the noises were that, there were initial talks between Harry Kane's representatives and the club with regard to staying on at Tottenham. So nothing can be ruled in or ruled out just now. It's going to be a very, very difficult deal to do. And also, you've got to think about where Manchester United are going as well. This is Harry Kane, who's going to be turning 30.
Yeah.
And but he's been there and done it in the Premier League, so you're almost guaranteed those goals. Or do you go for somebody like a Victor Osimhen, for example, who's going to cost the same amount of money, but is 5 or 6 years younger than Harry Kane?
Future as well, that's it. I mean, winning trophies and being in the Champions League is going to help United in that transfer market in the summer as well, and attracting the right talent. This is one step to it. Here, Sevilla, second leg. We're going to talk about the game. Players, I think, that could possibly come back in this one, Dharmesh, is probably the hot topic before Ten Hag's press conference, which we will be at later on. Can you see United getting past Seville? The record is phenomenal in this competition, and especially at home as well. What do you rate United's chances at?
I mean, there are lots of reasons to believe that United won't get through. And that's historical reasons more than anything. No, historical. I'll come to the positives in a minute. The historical reasons more than anything. You mentioned the love affair, Sevilla's love affair with this competition. I mean, the new manager only been in charge for 4 games, unbeaten, and after the United game, he actually said a couple of things. One, that United was scared when Sevilla scored that first goal, but also that Sevilla have got this soul in this competition that he can't actually describe. I don't think anyone can. They've won it 6 times. It's an absolutely incredible record. United have played them 4 times. Sevilla have never lost to Manchester United. So those are reasons to maybe think, well, it could be a difficult task for United to get through. On the positive side for United, their home form is not very good, Sevilla. They've only won 8 times in all competitions at home so far this season. They've also lost in the Champions League heavily to Manchester City and Borussia Dortmund, conceding 4 each time. United's away record this season in the Europa League, unbeaten away from home in the Europa League so far this season. And they've been to Spain 3 times already. Great draw at Barcelona, who are running away with La Liga. They beat Real Betis away from home, and they beat Real Sociedad in the group stages. Wasn't enough to get them through as group winners. I just think, looking back, when United didn't win the group, people were a little bit worried because of the fixtures, and I know there's been a lot of fixtures, but that Barcelona game could prove to be the 2 games that United might look back on if the season finishes in dreamlike fashion and think, it's actually great that United didn't get through as group winners, because they got to play Barcelona and the momentum started.
That's it, momentum is everything. I mean, looking at it, it feels like you just said then, the whole atmosphere around Seville, it's built, you've come through the airport, you're welcomed by signs of the Europa League. It just feels like Seville is built for the Europa League. It is. It's going to be a great game. I think the fact that they got them 2 late goals, I think he's made this even more tense. Whereas Betis last time, it was a foregone conclusion. I think even Manuel Pellegrini was struggling to come up with positives for that one. But this game's got bite now, and that atmosphere, I think, is what United have to overcome more. And Ten Hag has alluded to that in other big games as well this season. Score prediction before we go, Dharmesh, what are you going with tonight?
It's a tough one. I think United will sneak it, but I think it's going to be a very, very tense one. It could be extra time. It could even be the dreaded penalties. No, we're not going there. We're not going to go there. We're going to wrap that up quick before we get into any penalty talk. Dharmesh, absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on. No problem.
Guys, cheers for watching. Obviously, subscribe to the United Stand as always for all the behind-the-scenes content, and stay tuned for Ten Hag's press conference later on today.